Okay, so I know I said I was going to be starting the Devil May Cry reviews next, but as it turns out, this game's not nearly as long as Square made it out to be. You can clear the story in like 25 hours, still plenty of gameplay, but not even close to the 50 to 80 hours we were promised. And you know this game's still brand new, so gotta strike while the iron's hot. It's finally here, Kingdom Hearts 3. Do you have any freaking idea how long I and many other fans had to painfully wait for this game? For me, this was worse than waiting for both Metal Gear Solid 5 and Super Mario Maker combined. I enjoyed Kingdom Hearts 2 so much back when it was still fresh that I desperately wanted more. The handheld titles did fill my appetite for a little while, but I wanted something bigger and better. Something to remind me why I got into the series in the first place. However, I'm sure there are some of you out there wondering why Kingdom Hearts 3 is such a big deal. Many of you already know the reason, but I'll quickly enlighten those that are unaware. Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in 2006 for the PlayStation 2. It was and still is a fantastic sequel that improved so many things from the original, leaving fans craving for a third game to bring it on home. Kingdom Hearts 3 has only just come out in 2019. That's a 13-year gap. So what happened? Who the hell knows? Square blamed the swap to a new engine for development taking so long, but I guarantee there's more to that than we're led to believe. We didn't know Kingdom Hearts 3 was even going to happen until E3 of 2013 when the first announcement trailer was revealed. Beforehand, all we had were a bunch of handheld titles that everyone assumed were spin-offs but actually turned out to still be part of the series' big story arc, and after the mixed reception of Dream Drop Distance, the last handheld Kingdom Hearts game so far, people started to get fed up of waiting. We just wanted to know if Kingdom Hearts 3 was coming or not, though even when it was finally announced, Square explained that the reveal was too early in the development cycle, so we had to wait yet another 5 to 6 years before the game was actually finished. And during the last couple of years, we were peppered with all sorts of teasers and trailers and new info for the game to a ridiculous extent, until at long last Kingdom Hearts 3 was in our hands. Not only do PlayStation owners get a chance to experience the concluding chapter, but Xbox One owners can now have a taste of Kingdom Hearts as well. And if this is your first time with the series, then you can catch up on the story by looking at brief recap videos for each game that's included in Kingdom Hearts 3, and also available on the official Kingdom Hearts YouTube channel. So after all of that waiting and all of that exposure across the internet, is the game actually any good? Yeah, it's good. Almost everything I expected it to be, the key word there being almost. I have, however, seen a lot of mixed opinions for Kingdom Hearts 3. Fans seem to either really like it or were heavily disappointed by it, and I think a large part of that had to do with the long wait. Expectations were always going to be huge, and it was never going to be possible to please everyone, and surprisingly, I've been seeing more negative opinions about the game than I have positive. But before we get into any of that, we gotta deep dive into the heart of the story one more time before we can finally close the book on this series. I'll be giving a time code for story spoilers as usual, but I'm also going to be talking about a few things with the gameplay, such as post-story content, and also what I think about some of the worlds. So if you don't want to know about any of that, then proceed with caution. Hope you guys are ready for this, because now we're really in for some mind games. Okay, just to quickly recap from Fragmentary Passage, Aqua got thrown deeper into the Realm of Darkness, while Sora starting at level 1 again after Master Xehanort stripped him of his Keyblade abilities at the end of Dream Drop Distance. Yen Sid once again instructs him to travel to more worlds to get stronger in both a physical and psychological sense, all in order to regain this so-called power of waking to revive hearts that have been lost. He won't be alone on this adventure though, as Donald and Goofy will be joining him again for the first time in a long while. On the darker side, with Riku now a Keyblade Master and accompanied by Mickey, he's given his first task of locating Aqua, which is tougher than it seems to be since Riku's Keyblade gets completely destroyed pretty early on, while Mickey's becomes severely damaged. Not to worry though, because later on Riku gets a giant car key to bash enemies' heads with and turn the ignition at the same time. Oh, and Lee and Kairi are also doing their Keyblade training, but the game doesn't seem to think that'd be interesting enough, so we barely get to see them. As for the world Sora, Donald, and Goofy travel in, we've got a lot of new ones here with a few more returning, and for the first time in the series, we've also got a couple of worlds from the Pixar universe. That's awesome. I was so glad to have them on board. So without further ado, Olympus from Hercules for real this time. Twilight Town, no goddammit. Toy Box from Toy Story, the Kingdom of Corona from Tangled, Monstropolis from Monsters Inc., Arendelle from Frozen, the Caribbean from Pirates of the Caribbean, San Francisco from Big Hero 6, and lastly the Keyblade Graveyard to set the climactic final battle. After some exploring, Sora gets a call from his new gummy phone. What do you think, is he an iOS or Android kind of guy? And on the receiving end is Ienzo, the human form of Zexion from Organization 13, who's now working with Yen Sid to do research on the heart. As it turns out, Sora has the hearts of 3 others inside him, including Roxas. So now on top of obtaining the power of waking, Sora decides to look for a way to rescue Roxas. Actually, now that I mentioned Organization 13, yeah, they're back too. Not all of them, mind you, but enough to fulfill the title of the real Organization 13. It's basically just a way to get every Kingdom Hearts baddie to come together and team up against our heroes. Ansem, Xemnas, Young Xehanort, Larxene, Marluxia, Vanitas, etc, etc. Though I don't get why the Riku replica from Chain of Memories is part of the organization. Didn't he become a good guy by the end? Was it Marluxia's luscious hair that brought him back? To make things more confusing, the spirit of the replica that was already defeated has been living inside Riku since Chain of Memories, so Jesus Christ, my head hurts. As for the former organization members, they're using the defected Evan, the human form of Vexen, to create replicas and see if they can use one to not only bring back Roxas, but also Naminé. Meanwhile, Pete and Maleficent are looking for the fabled black box that we saw in Kingdom Hearts Unchained, though like with Kairi and Lee, they're barely seen. In fact, they get even less screen time. I don't know why they're here, honestly. They're just kinda there. Eventually, Sora, Donald, and Goofy clear all the Disney worlds and regain the power of waking, so they go and search for Mickey and Riku, as their journey into the realm of darkness has fallen silent, but there seems to be a good reason for that. Aqua's finally located, but has unfortunately been corrupted by the darkness, thanks to an encounter with Ansem earlier in the game. Thankfully, Sora finds Master Ericus' Keyblade in Destiny Islands from supposedly when Aqua dropped it in the darker half, and uses the Keyblade to open a door to the realm of darkness where he can step in to help Aqua come to her senses by hitting her a bunch of times with a giant key. Hey, I guess there had to be a boss fight against her at some point. Well, the power of Christ compels Aqua, and at last she's brought back to the realm of light after over 10 years. Yeah, what are the aging rules in this? Is Aqua technically now in her 30s or something, and Ventus is still growing up in his sleep? I never understood if time just moves slower in the realm of darkness, or if there's something I'm missing. I'd like to know if you guys think of anything. Anyway, with Aqua now rescued, the gang return to Castle Oblivion so she can turn it back into the land of departure, where Ventus is waiting to be woken up. Suddenly, Vanitas finds them, and we have to control Aqua to fight him. Don't get used to this, because this is the only time you can play as her. After that's done though, Sora uses his newfound power of waking to bring Ventus's heart back to his body, allowing him to wake up and stop Vanitas. He's pretty nimble too after his 10-year slumber, and I don't know why Sora had to earn his abilities again after sleeping in Kingdom Hearts 2, but Ventus is perfectly fine. Oh well. All that's left is for everyone, including Kairi and Lee, to go to the Keyblade Graveyard for the battle against Xehanort and his 13 Seekers of Darkness. Doesn't take long for them to run into trouble though, as Terranort appears to be waiting for them and summons a tide of Heartless to kill off our heroes. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that, they really all die, and Sora ends up in the final world that's like a depiction of purgatory. It's a little bizarre to see characters like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Goofy kick the bucket, but yeah, this part actually kinda turns into a bloodbath. In comes this little spirit though from Kingdom Hearts Unchained named Chirithy to guide Sora to literally pull himself together and revive all of his friends. All except for Kairi, who's also been guiding Sora in the right direction, eventually turning back time to just before everyone got killed off. The only difference being that the Lingering Will miraculously appears for reasons I can't even begin to question, but he fends off Terranort no problem. Even more Heartless arrive afterwards though to overpower our heroes, but Yen Sid comes in the nick of time to create a giant barrier of light so that everyone can reach the organization more easily. Probably could have used the help to stop everyone dying earlier, or was that just all part of the journey? Oh hell, knowing this series, it probably was. Now it's time to take on the real Organization 13. Everyone's split into groups of 3, dealing with their appropriate foes, all of which are vanquished, and the spirit of the Riku replica removes the evil Riku replica from its body, leaving an empty shell that the protagonist thinks to use for Naminé. Why does this series make things sound more complicated than it really is? Things are a little different when you fight Saïx though, as his little apprentice comes to the realization that she's fighting on the wrong side, and it turns out to be Xion under the hood, who was revived by Vexen to become one of the 13 Darknesses. And because this is the luckiest of all days, Sora's power of waking also restores the heart of Roxas. Beats the hell out of me where the replica body came from, but it's a 358 days reunion now. Hooray! Too bad about Kairi getting kidnapped again though. Christ, 3 games and Keyblade training and she's still getting captured? You'd think she'd be good at this by now. Defeating Saïx also reveals that he was of course jealous of Axel making a bunch of new friends during 358 days and believed that he was forgetting him and all sorts of ridiculous drama that could have been sorted if they had just, talked to each other. Meanwhile, on the Birth by Sleep side, Vanitas is dealt with pretty quickly and fades away, with Terranort chaining up Sora, Aqua, and Ventus soon after. He flings Aqua and Ventus around for a bit before plummeting them to their deaths, but his Guardian randomly saves them before we find out that Terra's been inside it this whole time, which Sora helps him break out of, returning Terra to his normal self as he reunites with Aqua and Ventus. Everything's so damn cheery, but we still gotta fight Ansem, Xemnas, and young Xehanort, who were all properly taken care of in due time, leaving only Master Xehanort left, no longer voiced by Leonard Nimoy. Xehanort has Kairi in his possession though until he straight up kills her in cold blood to make Sora fight him. He then uses the 13 Darknesses to create the Chi Blade, which frankly shouldn't have worked since Xion didn't evaporate at any point. Whatever. Xehanort has the Chi Blade and uses it on Kingdom Hearts to saturate with darkness and create a new Keyblade war. Sora tries to stop him, but Xehanort uses time-traveling magic to send them as well as Donald and Goofy into Scala ad Caelum, where he and Ericus train to become Keyblade Masters. There's a giant grueling battle, first with Xehanort in armor and then another one with the old man himself, until finally he's beaten. The other Guardians arrive at the most inconvenient time, and suddenly the spirit of Ericus appears to convince Xehanort to yield. Ericus's heart has apparently been living inside Terra since he was murdered in Birth by Sleep. Is nobody allowed to have their own body to themselves in this series? How many characters have had the hearts of other characters building a home inside of them? The rent must be a bitch. Xehanort hands the Chi Blade over to Sora for a well-fought battle, and afterwards he and Ericus rise up to Kingdom Hearts before Sora rids of the darkness around it and seals it up for good. The gang all return to their own time, but Sora believes he can bring Kairi back by using the power of waking. However, before the clash with the real Organization 13, young Xehanort warned him that there would be a price to pay if such an event like that were to occur, and it sounds like Sora won't be able to return if he resurrects Kairi. Again, I'd have thought Yen Sid would bring this up way earlier in the game. Put it in the fine print or something? Anything? Right, let's just finish this up. Everyone all lives happily ever after, including Saïx, who now goes by Isa and became friends again with Lee. Naminé is brought back to the world thanks to the empty replica from earlier and gets to be on the cover of the game despite only having a single scene and without dialogue. Only Kairi gets to have a crappy ending though, as she watches Sora fade away into nothingness after presumably declaring their love for each other. Figured something like that would happen, but it's still a bummer regardless. Well, okay, the story had its problems, but it provided some nice closure on a few things, like bringing back the Birth by Sleep and 358 Days cast together, and we get to see the protagonists return to their old lives, and... Wait a minute, there's a post-credits and secret ending, isn't there? Right, okay, not sure what else they could add, but let's see what they've done. Oh yeah, there was supposed to be a black box, I completely forgot about that. And it's guarded by Xigbar, who was apparently the guy that the Master of Masters entrusted it to in Kingdom Hearts Unchained. Alright. What, now the apprentices are back? What the hell? And Ericus foretells of a battle between them and Sora? Huh? And the secret ending puts Sora in Shibuya from The World Ends With You and Riku in another city, and he has different colored eyes? What the batshit is going on here? Honestly, I think this is one of the weakest stories in the series for me. It's not absolutely awful, make no mistake, there are some great moments and it's a lot better than Recoded's or Dream Drop Distances, but it just feels like Tetsuya Nomura's making things up as he goes. A huge part of it has to be that it's acting as the concluding chapter to the main storyline, but it doesn't wrap up a whole lot, and it still leaves certain plot points open for interpretation, especially the endings. It does a better job than Metal Gear Solid 5, that's for sure, but I was nonetheless wanting more to the story. Secondly, I'm not a fan of how forgiving the characters were to Master Xehanort with how much carnage he's brought to this series. Master Ericus especially, he should be way more pissed off than he really is after Xehanort struck him down. Ha 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 ha. Oh, I was in an immense amount of pain when you killed me and you psychologically and physically damaged my pupils and nearly caused World War III, but I can't be mad at you, you little scamp. Thirdly, like in Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance, the Disney worlds kind of bring the story to a halt until the final area, which normally doesn't bother me. But for one thing, there isn't a single Final Fantasy character in the game to break it up, which detracts the entire point of the series a bit. They do mention Cloud and Auron briefly at the beginning, but we never actually see them, nor anyone else, which freaking blows. And the Disney stories are about as basic as they've been in the past. You've got your traditional Disney worlds where they basically just retell the events of the movie to a shorter extent, but in the case for Monsters Inc. and Big Hero 6, the stories act more like sequels to those movies, while in something like Toy Story, it's entirely original. The major problem with them, though, is that they have a bad habit of skipping important details or just glance over them and assume you know what happens because you've seen the movies. For example, with Tangled, there's a part where Flynn and Rapunzel have a romantic moment together, but Flynn takes his satchel and says he'll be right back. In the movie, it was because he was taking a priceless tiara to a couple of goons. But in Kingdom Hearts 3, the next time we see him, he's tied to a boat sailing away, and the next time we see him after that, he's riding on Maximus and vows to rescue Rapunzel. Well, what the hell happened in between? It's never explained. Frozen is another good example for this. Apart from the fact that Hans doesn't get a single line in the game and they don't go into detail as to why he wants Elsa's head, the Let It Go sequence comes right out of nowhere with no actual context to the song. Again, it assumes you've seen the movie and know why Elsa acts like this, and they try to fix this afterwards with the Do You Want to Build a Snowman sequence with Anna spouting exposition over it, but the sound mixing's so bad that you can't hear either the song or the exposition. It's a bit of a mess, and very clear these were only added just to be like, hey, here's that thing people sang all the time, whether you wanted to hear it or not back in 2013.
The cold never bothered me anyway.
For as heavily abridged as the Disney worlds were in previous games, they at least gave you the bare essentials that you needed to know, but Kingdom Hearts 3 sometimes doesn't even do that. So then why should the average player even be interested in the plot for Kingdom Hearts 3, besides seeing how far the main characters have come? And the answer is, I can't give you a straight answer, unfortunately. Again, the plot for Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't terrible, far from it, but there wasn't enough detail to make sense of absolutely everything. Why does this game still appeal to me, though? Because, personally, I just think it looks cool. Yeah, this is kind of a rare occurrence for me where the incredible spectacle makes up for the bonkers story. When the action gets intense, it gets really intense. And when the story does get good, it gets really good. Sometimes even heartwarming. And surprisingly, the comedy's a lot stronger than the previous games. I never really talked about the comedy in my other reviews because frankly it always felt forced to me. Maybe it was to do with the more limited hardware or the script or the line delivery, I don't know, it just never sat right with me. But in Kingdom Hearts 3, I actually had a good chuckle here and there. I like how sarcastic Sora can be in a couple of occasions. The Disney characters act like they should be most of the time. Oh, and I love this reaction from Xemnas when Lee tries to attack him.
Is this supposed to be a Keyblade? Or is it some sort of joke?
See, that's great, that's well executed, but it's just those little niggles in the narrative that distract you from an otherwise profound experience. Not helping the fact is how lengthy some of these cutscenes can be. I swear you're spending maybe 2 hours of the finale just watching the game rather than playing it. Aside from that, they also introduce a few things that hardly get brought up again, if at all. Riku is only playable twice and he's fighting the same demon tower. Aqua's only playable once and doesn't join your party after rescuing her, which freaking sucked. And there's less than a handful of Disney villains to fight, with one of them joining your party afterwards anyway. That for me was just as bad as not including Final Fantasy characters. I realize there's not much you can do when you're dealing with someone like Mother Gothel or Randall, but I think they could have done something better than just making a giant generic Heartless at the end of most of the worlds. How have I spent this long just talking about the story? I'd better go through the gameplay before we reach the 3-hour mark. Being the first console game in the series for a long-ass time, Kingdom Hearts 3 returns to the faster-paced style of combat that's not quite as quick as Kingdom Hearts 2, but definitely more so than the handheld games that came after. It felt so good playing like this again and equipping new abilities I earned to make the combat even better, and while we don't have drive forms anymore, the game more than makes up for it by introducing transformations to each of the new Keyblades. You once again have that 3-triangle mechanic from Fragmentary Passage, and just like in there, what attacks you use before getting them all will determine what special attack you can activate within a time limit. By just attacking the enemy normally, you can trigger that Keyblade's transformation that all have their own speeds, coverage, and attached abilities. And what's also great is that you can now swap between 3 different Keyblades that you have equipped to change things up a bit, or if that new Keyblade you got isn't working out for you. But even so, on top of the Moogle shops bringing back the synthesis feature to craft new weapons and accessories, they can also now upgrade each individual Keyblade to become stronger at the cost of specific materials, which aren't always easy to find, sadly, as the rare ones require exploring the vast open space with your gummy ship. We'll get to that in a bit. Sometimes in the heat of battle, though, your party members may want you to activate a link attack, which are basically like the limit commands in Kingdom Hearts 2, except they don't require any magic. What does require magic are the new summons in the form of the Dream Eaters, Wreck-It Ralph, Simba, Ariel, and Stitch. My favorite one's definitely Ariel. She completely destroys everything if you get the button timing right. Simba's pretty good as well due to his sheer size, so I'll use him too if I want to be a bit different, though I have no idea how Wreck-It Ralph's supposed to work. I think you need to build these blocks in different places and then smash them all at the end to create an explosion, but it doesn't feel very impactful. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. In general, however, just like Kingdom Hearts 2, I very rarely use the summons. Even on Proud Mode, you can get by this game fairly easily. For one thing, you likely won't need to attack enemies often with the new attractions based on Disneyland rides. These were just okay. The crowd control is decent and they are fun to play with, but they're not quick enough to use over and over again. And aside aside from that, I didn't even feel the need to use the returning flow motion. In fact, I forgot I had it a lot of the time. It's nowhere near as broken as it was in Dream Drop Distance, but I think they went a bit overboard here. I only recall using it maybe once or twice after Olympus, and that's it. Actually, let's discuss the worlds for a minute. To start with, I really like that there's no filler during the opening, unlike Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. You just jump straight into the action after the cutscenes, beginning with Olympus, which you can actually explore this time in addition to Thebes. There aren't any Colosseum battles to speak of, but I didn't really miss those personally. Most of the worlds are longer and larger than they've ever been in a Kingdom Hearts game, lasting over 2 hours each, and it looks and feels great to wander through them. However, there are a couple of downsides. Despite how big these worlds are now, they each only have a select few areas where you can freely explore, making the journey somehow even more linear than they were in Kingdom Hearts 2. They basically feel more like a series of levels than actual worlds, which is especially noticeable in Monstropolis, where the whole thing's pretty much one giant hallway, and in the Kingdom of Corona, until you get to the town, everywhere in the forest looks almost identical. I didn't enjoy the Caribbean until after the story for it was completed and I could sail across the ocean to locate new islands and find hidden goodies, a la Zelda the Wind Waker. It already had kind of a bad start for deciding to focus on the second and third movies, which were long and boring in itself, but what it asked you to do during the story, god, it's tedious. The ship battling was cool, but only for a few minutes. The race against Luxord was pointless, and I lost to the Kraken a fair few times because I had to focus on shooting it and the Flying Dutchman while making sure the Black Pearl doesn't get destroyed. And the hunt for the White Crabs, why is this a thing? This is not what I wanted to be doing in a highly anticipated Kingdom Hearts sequel. The power of friendship, an endless battle between light and darkness. Gathering White Crabs. Sort of sucks out the epicness, doesn't it? Surprisingly though, I didn't hate Twilight Town. It's a hell of a lot shorter than it usually is, which helps. You've only got the town itself, a small path in the subway, and the forest to the mansion. Much better. 100 Acre Wood, on the other hand, dude, was this even a world? You play the same minigame 3 times and you can clear the entire thing in about 20 minutes, and that's being generous. This has gotta be a joke. Pooh and the gang aren't seen in Kingdom Hearts for 13 years and this is what they get? Eeyore's not even here. Where'd he go? Oh, but Lumpy, he was important to bring in for only a few lines. Nice to see you've got your priorities straight. The morbidly honey-obsessed bear deserves better than this. To be more positive for a minute, the highlight of the game for me was San Francisco from Big Hero 6. This was a neat world. You get to explore the city and wall run to the top of the buildings. That's another new feature, by the way. I enjoy just running around and searching to my heart's content for treasure chests and some of the most challenging lucky emblems you'll find. These are little Mickey symbols that can mostly be seen on a particular surface and you need to take a picture of them with your new gummy phone, but sometimes they can be insanely tricky to find, especially ones that require a forced perspective, though they do unlock the secret ending if you find enough of them depending on the difficulty. That is if your party members even point them out, which you can gracefully have up to 5 now. No more swapping between save points or forcing yourself to stick with a specific group. It's better than controlling the gummy ship again, I'm certain of that. Yes, these moments are unfortunately still a bit on the meh side. It's different, I'll give it that. You can now fly around wherever you want to go, and engage in various battles when you run into them. The gummy ship's about as okay as it was in Kingdom Hearts 2. Not necessary at all, but harmless. And when you come across a constellation of stars or a treasure sphere with a bunch of rewards, or you take down that giant boss that gave you so much trouble and you get that sweet A rank, it's admittedly rather fulfilling. You're given a bunch of different gummy ships to choose from as long as you have the essential materials for it, and you also have possibly the best editor in any Kingdom Hearts game if you're feeling more creative. Extra content though, particularly post-game stuff, I feel is lacking compared to Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. There's the battle gates, which act as short little gauntlets and are really good for acquiring experience points. You can become Peter Parker and take certain pictures to send to the Daily Moogle. There's the many LCD games set in various Disney shorts that you'd play on a Game & Watch or Tiger Electronics if you were really poor. You can cook various dishes with Remy from Ratatouille that provide stat buffs after consuming, and Ignis claims he's come up with a new recipe. There's the Flantastic 7 with their own minigames that I find to be a lot better than Mushroom 13's. You've got other minigames like sled riding and Arendelle with annoying as hell treasure prizes to obtain that's required for the brand new Ultima weapon, which has become my favorite incarnation of it, both in looks and practicality. It seriously kicks ass in this game, decimating everything it touches. It totally sucks though that I only get to really use this for the one secret boss in the entire game, which I managed to beat on my first try with it, and I wasn't even at level 99. Still, I'd rather take that than the Birth by Sleep secret bosses. I can kind of understand why some people didn't think the wait for Kingdom Hearts 3 was totally worth it. I myself had a strong feeling that it was going to be great, but at best was only going to tie with Kingdom Hearts 2. That shouldn't mean that it deserves to be seen as a major disappointment though, because it does get a lot right. The hack and slashing is still some of the best in the series. There are some great additions to the combat. The music is wonderfully orchestrated, albeit not all memorable, though I do enjoy the Toy Story tracks, and Kingdom Hearts 3 also has the best theme song in my opinion, called Don't Think Twice. But what the hell was up with the Skrillex song? And as for the graphics, well, do I even need to say anything? It looks fantastic. Some fans were bummed out that there aren't any worlds based on older Disney movies, and yeah, it is a shame, but I think going for the 3D Disney movies was a smart move. It suits the graphical engine a lot more, and the characters look almost exactly like they do in the films. You should have seen my face when I saw the Toy Story cast for the first time. I couldn't believe how accurate they were and the detail they put into them. In terms of being the final game in the main storyline, I'd say I was satisfied enough with what we've been given. There were some things I would have liked to see improved on, and it did feel a bit empty after I cleared the game despite having a decent 25 hours of story, but that's what DLC's for, I suppose. It's a little tough to recommend to both newcomers and fans of the series, as everyone seems to have their own opinions on it, so play the game for yourself and see what you think. And with that, we are finally done with the Kingdom Hearts series. It's been a long road, but for now we can just seal the lock for a while until we most likely get another game. As for where I would rank the games, excluding Unchained because I don't see that as a proper Kingdom Hearts game, let's see. In last place, I would put 358 Days Over 2 for being a boring, repetitive slog with its mission structure. At a very close number 7 is Chain of Memories for changing things too fast and the car mechanic not being fun on its own accord. Number 6 is Recoded for having better gameplay than the other two, but no reason to exist otherwise. Number 5 is Dream Drop Distance for having a few interesting ideas, but a fairly standard entry overall. Number 4 is Birth by Sleep for introducing some cool new mechanics that suited the handheld style, but the multiple campaigns wore me out. Number 3 is the original Kingdom Hearts for still being a good time, though aged in a few areas. And number 2 is Kingdom Hearts 3 for being a great sequel with plenty of Disney fan service and not many glaring issues. And finally at number 1 is Kingdom Hearts 2 for its speedier combat, simpler story, and exploding with content in the final mix version. A pity that we're leaving the series on sort of an ambiguous note, but I can highly recommend at least Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3 for anybody who's into hack and slash RPGs, especially longtime fans of Disney and Final Fantasy. If you're just trying the series for the first time, let me know what you think of it in the comments. Hope you all have a good day, and I will see you in the next video. Hey folks, no outtakes again unfortunately, but I just wanted to quickly say that if you've been watching every single one of my Kingdom Hearts reviews, then thank you very much. It means a lot. I've been wanting to do these reviews for a long time now. Kingdom Hearts is one of my favorite series, and I'm glad I finally got to talk about them. So thank you all for watching, even if you've just been tuning into Kingdom Hearts 3, and I hope it was all worth it. I'll see you all next time for Devil May Cry.